Let me quote the great quarterback Aaron Rodgers, relax. Everything's going fine. We're getting off to a great start here in the first week of the administration. Every little bit of ink that comes out of the pen of President Trump creates thousands more jobs. The markets are reacting strongly to this. The VIX is relaxed. Let's make the economy grow.
Still, if you watch all the cable punditry right now, there's
yes.
talk about whether or not there is a trade war coming with Mexico. The president spoke for an hour with President Enrique Peña Nieto of Mexico this morning. Can you give us any sense of how that phone call went?
I can give you the sense that the strategic and economic relationship with Mexico and Canada in this hemisphere is important. It's a critical one, and we believe that that relationship on both sides of our border can go forward in a very constructive way. The problem, though, and this is a problem we have with a lot of countries around the world, is that we're running chronic and large trade deficits, which we have to bring down. One of the reasons we have that is because of the unequal treatment of our income tax by the WTO and the VAT tax system. That's why a border adjustable tax is right front and center on the Hill for discussion. Somehow that needs to be dealt with. The second problem is the cheating. It's dumping by countries like China of steel and aluminum into our markets, putting people out of work in Ohio and Pennsylvania, West Virginia, where our steel mines and our coal are. That has to be dealt with. And then more broadly, what we need to focus on, Michelle, is rebuilding and re-energizing not just our manufacturing assembly plants here with the logos like Ford and GM, but the supply chain to provide those components so that we're not just assembling things with foreign components.
You brought up the border adjustment tax. That's been at the cornerstone of the House GOP plan for corporate tax reform.
Correct.
You don't have to explain it to us because we've been talking about it for weeks on CNBC and explaining it to the audience. What hasn't been clear to us is whether people in this building, including the president himself, support the border adjustment provision in the House GOP plan. It sounds like you do. You do.
I think, there's no question that we need a border adjustable tax of some kind. One that has to be flexible, but we need one that's flexible. For example, Germany, one of the worst actors in the international environment when it comes to the VAT, because what they've done is strategically raise that to 20%, whereas Japan's is much lower. They're sticking it to us. When they send a BMW or a Porsche into our markets, they basically rebate the VAT to those manufacturers. It's like a subsidy. And then if we try to sell them a Ford or a Chevy, they slap on the VAT. That's not going to happen under a Trump administration. So we're going to deal with that in some fashion. There's been a lot of discussion about how to do it.
But is the president on board with border adjustment?
The president is on board with the idea that the WTO and that problem is a huge problem. After all, come on, we campaigned on that for months. You can look at speech after speech.
But he said it was too complicated. 2 weeks ago in the Journal, he said it was too complicated.
This problem needs to be dealt with, and we're having a lot of discussions about the best way to go forward with it. Paul Ryan and Kevin Brady have a bill that we might very well be able to work with well. There's a lot of discussion. It's early form, but the principle to take away here, this is important, is that we as an economy cannot succeed putting our people back to work in Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Indiana if those countries out there keep treating us unfairly with respect to that VAT tax system. And the only way you're going to do that is by coming up with some system of border adjustable, which is flexible. In other words, you can't treat Germany the same as you do Japan with respect to that specific issue.
What about Wilbur Ross, Steve Bannon, Jared Kushner? Do they all like border adjustability?
Come on, guys, come here on the mark here and explain to them. Let them speak in their own words. They should speak in their own words.
Okay, you can't give me an answer on that at this point.
I would. Look, I would never presume to speak for Steve Bannon, Wilbur Ross, or Stephen Miller, or Steve Mnuchin, or Gary Cohn, or anybody. I'm here sharing my view about what the problems we face are. And if you look at the trade issues, you got cheating, you got tax problems, you've got diversionary dumping that's coming in with steel and aluminum and all sorts of stuff. And I'll tell you what, we're going to get it done. We're going to create jobs for the American worker and keep our domestic manufacturing strong.